This is the Fake Bajan podcast number three. My name is Jonathan Braffett. I am an attorney at law in Barbados. I practice international tax. And so the purpose of this podcast is to, as I said in the other videos, is to bring some information to other Barbadians. This is to the Barbadians in Barbados and those in the UK, USA, and Canada. What I will say is that this is not a sales, this is not a sales advertisement. The things that I talk about here, you can go and talk to your existing lawyers, accountants, advisors, people that you trust. You don't need to call me. To be honest, you can use ChatGPT to look up a lot of these things for yourself and go about and research them and then instruct your advisors to implement them for you and your family. The other thing I would say is to the diaspora and Bajans in the US, UK, and Canada, these things apply to you, yes, as Bajans, but because you guys live in the US, UK, and Canada, setting up trusts and business structures and other things are different there are different implications for you guys than there are for Bajans who live in Barbados. So what you need to do is consult your tax lawyers wherever you live to consult with them to set up things like trusts and companies in Barbados and things of that nature. So please remember that. So we were discussing trusts in the previous videos, and in the previous video I left off basically explaining that probate is one of the things that can be avoided by setting up a trust for the family. Now when you set up a trust, you have a trustee, which could be it could be more than one person. It could be you could have there are regulated trustees out there like banks, trust companies, and the good thing about them, we'll have a separate video on trustees on how to select one and the type of trustees that are out there. But trustees that are banks are regulated, which means they have a license issued by authorities. You can go on the central bank website and look up and see who are the regulated trust companies are in Barbados. And so a regulated trustee is one option. The other options are persons that you know and trust and who have some understanding of business and investment. The trustee does not have to be a lawyer. It could be someone. The key point is that you know them well, you've known them a long time, and you trust them. That's the main prerequisite. That may include a lawyer, it might not. It could be your accountant, it could be basically anyone that you trust. So when you set up a trust, when the family, say the father or mother, decide to set up a trust, they get a trust deed, they go through it, they put things in it. Let's say they have 3 children and they set up the trust and they may decide to make themselves beneficiaries of the trust along with their 3 children. And let's say the main asset that they put into the trust is their home. Okay? So the parents are the trustees of the trust. The parents, along with the children, are the beneficiaries of the trust. And so in a situation like this now, the trust can act to protect the family, the entire family. Let's go through simple ways. First, when you put your home into a trust, if anything happens to the parents and they depart the earth, then basically there's no probate. Your children will not have to go through the probate process. There will be a trustee of the trust. The house will be there. The children, as beneficiaries, will be able to use the house. They will be able to live in it, benefit from it, but it will not basically have to go through probate. So you save yourself all the time and expense and uncertainty of going through the probate process. Also, by having a trust and trustees, you avoid conflict because sometimes in the probate process, because of the way it is, it can lead to arguments among children, amongst beneficiaries, and of course, when people get into arguments in legal processes, it can lead to litigation, and additional costs, and then end up spending a lot more money on lawyers than basically the money in the trust going towards the benefit of the beneficiaries in the trust. So we always remember the trustees have to always act in the best interests of the beneficiaries when there is a trust. This is the fiduciary relationship, right? The trustees have a fiduciary obligation to the beneficiaries of the trust. A trust is the most powerful law that protects property and property rights. The next thing that you have to remember with a trust is that while there is no probate, um, the parents and the children are protected. So if you put a home and money, funds in a trust and shares and all these things, um, let's say your children are beneficiaries of the trust, and let's say you have children in the older ages of 20 something who are on the verge of getting married. Sometimes parents worry that, if they give children money, assets, children go out there. We're not all lucky in life. Sometimes divorce and breakups and things like this happen. So therefore, parents worry that if they give children money, that when they get divorced, they would lose half or more of the assets, depending on whether it's a boy or a girl. And when the funds that your children are benefiting from are in a trust, if your child gets married and then divorced, the, there is no dividing of the assets in the trust. When your child gets divorced, the assets in your trust do not form part of their estate. In other words, the spouse cannot get access to any of the funds that you have in the family trust, and your child will continue to benefit from what is in that trust. This applies to both men and women. So whether your children are your children, whether they're men or women, and so parents care about their kids the same. All children are different. They go through different things in life. And so your children can be protected if you want to place assets that you've accumulated over the years, homes, land, shares, other things. If you want to place it in trust, you can basically protect those assets from the event of divorce if any of your children are unfortunate enough to go through that. If your children are young, if your children are 1, 2, 3 years old, and you have already accumulated a home or homes, apartments, assets, different things, and your children are young, sometimes in life, things happen. And if you are not here, but your children are beneficiaries of your trust, then basically your children are protected as beneficiaries. The assets in the trust cannot be touched by a trustee. The trustee only earns a trustee fee, which you agree to every year. They can touch no more than that, and the assets in the trust have to be used for the benefit of your children. So you can stipulate that the assets in the trust have to be used for rent, to allow the children to live, to allow the children to travel, to allow your children to go to school for education, and anything else that you want to put into the trust. So this is how a trust for a family can protect young children. It can protect older children that are on the verge of getting married. Wealthy families, let's just talk about wealthy families. The reason why wealthy families use trust is because obviously when you're wealthy, and people know this, sometimes your children can become a target for fraudsters, con men, and people like that. And so when your wealth is in a trust, it don't matter what the con man does, whatever he encourages the child to do or get into, they cannot get access to the assets that are held in the trust. They are protected from fraudsters and people of that nature, because trustees have to go through a range of procedures in order to distribute monies, assets, and other things to the beneficiaries. So more on this in the next video. Thank you.